In this video, we're gonna make some tech house like James Hype, like this.
I feel a little disconnected. Nothing better. Can't correct it. I take a little. So effective. I feel a little disconnected. I feel a little.
Alright, so for those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Vlad and I create superstar music producers. If you're interested in music coaching and you want to work on your production skills, all the links are down below. Feel free to book a call with me or send me a message. And without further talking, let's get straight into the video. So when I was remaking this track, I was really surprised how simple James Hype tracks are. Like when I was listening on Spotify, it's just usually like the kick, bass, drums, vocal, and just like some lead fills. But simplicity makes it also harder to achieve that kind of sound. So I picked up a couple of little secrets or like ear candy things for this track that I'm gonna share with you, so you can start doing that for your own tracks. So as usual, let's start with the kick and the bass. So if you listen to the original track, it sounds like they just have the kick and the bass, but there's one more element that they have in the track.
I feel a little disconnected. Nothing better.
For example, we can listen here as well. It's some sort of like percussive element. It could be the tom, it could be some FX percussion. So I decided to make something similar and I found a loop in my library. So it's not like the exact copy, but the logic is the same, so you can replicate that for your own tracks. So here's how the kick and the bass sounds. So without this one, the tom sounds. It's a little bit too empty even with the drums. But with this one, it's giving you a really nice groove. So let's take a look at the bass sound design here. So this is a FM kind of bass, which is really simple if you look at the effects, the processing and everything else. So we're gonna start with the basic shapes. It's a sine wave here, as you can see, so really simple, and on its own it sounds like this. Let me also remove all of the effects here. Bypass all destinations. Okay, so just like a basic sine wave here. The envelope one looks like this. It's pretty long, so about like 500 milliseconds. The release I decided to make just a bit longer. So this is how we start with the first oscillator. In the second oscillator, we are using the same waveform, but the level is at 0, so it's not playing. And now from the oscillator B, we want to select FM modulation, so it's going to sound like this. Pretty cool. The next thing that you want to do, you want to use envelope 2, which is going to look something like this. So 0 sustained, should be pretty plucky. And then we're going to use it to modulate the amount of FM modulation from the oscillator B. So it's creating that a little bit sort of weird sound. The next step is going to be the filter. So for the filter, we want to select MG Low 24 and again use envelope 2 to control the cutoff here. So increase the resonance here, fat and drive, as you can see. Okay, so it's starting to sound similar to the original one. And now what you want to do, you want to use the LFO 1. So it should look something like this. Select envelope here. And then you want to find the right rate. It can be different if you change the shape. So for me, it was 7.4 hertz. Now we want to go to the matrix and we want to select LFO 1 here. Global master tuning. And in my case, I'm applying about 35% of this modulation and also unipolar. And we want to enable everything. So it's giving that nice knock kind of bass like they have in the original track. All right, and that's pretty much it for the main sound design here. Now let's talk about the effects. So a bit of distortion, just a bit here. Okay, so for the EQ, I felt like I wanted to have some bump in my low mid. So in this case, it's 136. So it's giving that nice bump and power. maybe a bit less, something like this. The next thing is going to be the compressor to compensate for the frequencies that we boosted with the EQ. So it just makes the bass more balanced in terms of the loudness. A bit of hyperdimension, because in the original one they used the bass just sounded wide. So if you want to keep it, then you can do like this. And I think for the bass, that was pretty much it. As you can see, pretty simple. So now with the kick, it sounds like this. And let's also talk a little bit about the kick here, because the kick in the original, like, it's pretty long. It's just like massive kind of sound, like pretty punchy, massive and fat, I could say, right? So this is what they had in the reference track, because as you can see here, we have quite a lot of space, which is something that we could use for the kick. All right, now let's talk about the group processing, because this is quite important, because when I was listening, I noticed that the kick, the bass and everything, it's pretty limited. It's like pretty squashed, I would say, like a bit. So in terms of the dynamics, you're gonna see that for the group processing, so with the saturation here, we are gluing everything together, adding more power. We could even do something like this. Okay, and then a bit of parallel compression here with a pretty short attack that reacts to the kick. As you can see, it's pretty aggressive, but it really glues everything together. It makes the elements sound more flat. And then for the tom, like, it's super simple. Just, you know, like, that's the original sound, by the way. So let me show you. And with the EQ, we're just shaping the sound like this. A bit of Valhalla Supermassive. I just wanted to add some sort of room reverb, but like non-standard one. Sounds like this, and just a bit of mix here. And then finally a bit of sidechain like this. And same thing on the bass, just a bit of sidechain here. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the low end here. So as you can see, like, really simple, so sounding really great, like nice, powerful. The kick is punchy. Okay, now let's talk about this Pluck lead kind of sound. So sounds pretty simple, but as you can see, there's a lot of things going on here. So let's take a look at everything, and a lot of effects here as well. So let's bypass all destinations here. Bypass all destinations, and yeah, okay. So we want to start with saw rounded to square. So it sounds like this, and the position is about like 20, maybe like 20 something ish. So the original sound sounds like this without any additional processing. Okay, sounds like this. Then after that, we want to use the filter just to roll off the high frequencies here. The next step is going to be the envelope 1. So with envelope 1, we are going to detune our oscillator. So to do that, it's going to be like this. And also you want to set the detune, like the unison amount of voices, to 5. So it gets that a bit of like chorusy kind of distorted, detuned sound, not distorted, right? Like this. Then the next step is going to be the LFO 1. So you want to use it in envelope 1 mode and set it like all the way up. And then we are going to apply it to the chorus pitch, like this, and select round like 5, right? As you can see. So it gets, again, like a bit of that detuned feeling. Okay, and now for the envelope 1, we're going to talk about that. I think for the effects, that was pretty much it. The only thing which was left is this macro. So with this one, we are automating the parameter, but we're going to talk about that a bit later. So for the oscillator, that's it. Now let's talk about the effects. So we have a bit of distortion here, and as you can see, I used sort of like a low cut here. I just wanted to have like this high frequency, like plucky sound. Then a bit of multi-band compression to make it brighter. A bit of EQ again to roll off the high frequencies. I think we can do that before compressor. Pretty nice. Now the chorus, you can play with the settings, but just a bit of chorus sounded nice for this sound, so you can hear. Pretty cool, I like that. Okay, now hyper dimension. So with this one, we are not using hyper, just a bit of dimension. And also, as you can see, envelope 1, we are using it to control the amount of hyper dimension mix. So basically just like modulating like this. And then the next effect is going to be the delay here. So again, we are using envelope 1 to modulate the mix amount for the delay. And the delay you want to set at 132 dot. And finally, a bit of reverb, but then you can use external one, it doesn't really matter. So it just adds that nice like dimension to the sound. So altogether it sounds like this. Okay, and now let's talk about the automations here. So one of the things that I'm automating, as you can see, it's going to be the hyper and the delay, just to create some sort of similar vibe as in the reference track. And then also a bit of automation for the amount of reverb. To give it a similar vibe. And I think one last thing that I automated was the macro 2, which I assigned to the fine tuning to sort of pitch the sound down. So that was the thing that I wanted to achieve here. So if we listen to this one again, it's going to be like, so as you can hear, it just detunes the sound. So that's it for the plucky sound. And then there was one more sound which they had in the reference track, which sounds like this. So it's really similar to the original one, like not 100%, but same vibe, same feeling. Okay, so let's listen in the drop. Sounds like this. And the sound design is also pretty simple if we take a look at everything. So let's do like this. So we want to start with basic shapes. It's a square. You want to select the unison, it's going to be 4. And what I did here, I automated the amount of unison like detune. And also the same thing goes for the blend to give it some sort of movement, so it's more interesting, so like static. That's one of the things that I've done. Then I applied a filter, so it's MG low 12, and it's not like, it's just a filter, so it's not like modulated by the envelope. Okay, that was pretty much it for the sound itself. Now let's talk about the effects. So first thing is going to be the distortion here. Bit of distortion, then EQ to roll off the high frequencies. Chorus to give it some like wider kind of sound. Then hyper dimension. And then I think a bit of reverb, and that was pretty much it. So like super simple sound, but again, as I said in the beginning of the video, James Hype uses like simple arrangements, simple sounds, but that's the key. If you really focus on simple sounds, you add movement and things like that, then it's going to sound pretty cool. Okay, and now the last thing that I want to talk about is going to be the drums, and I just want to quickly show you the processing. So this is how the drums sounded without any processing. And now with all of the processing, so much more powerful, crispy. I like that. So in terms of the MIDI for the drums, it's just like a basic shaker here. Super basic, basic open hat. And then I just laid 3 claps, just real quick, gonna show you. So that's the main one. Then I laid the second one and I panned it all the way to the left. And then the next one all the way to the right. So all together, it sounds like this. And we also have like quite a wide feeling for our claps, which is pretty nice. Okay, so let's quickly talk about the processing. So for the drums, the processing looks really, really simple. So I'm starting with the saturation, which gives it this nice sort of feeling. So it brings the frequencies like more upfront. We are adding a bit of low frequencies here as well. So as you can see, I shapes the tone, quite a lot of mid boost here, bass, and a bit of cut on the presence. I just wanted to make the drums a bit more softer. We can do like this and compensate for the loudness. So you can play with the parameters, really up to you how you want it to sound, but saturation on drums is like a must-have thing. Then the next thing is going to be pretty interesting. So I used a bit of upwards like expansion. So as you can hear, so it adds more power to the clap, to the low section, low frequencies of the clap, which is pretty nice. And then just a bit of compression on the high end to make the hats and shakers more balanced. The next thing that I used here is a transient shaper. So by the way, it's in parallel, just like about 50% mix. So I reduced the amount of sustain and I increased the attack here. So that's without. And that's all the way in. And I just want to keep about maybe 60%. I think that sounds pretty nice. Okay, after that, I'm using a clipper to just remove the peaks because we can master the track louder this way. And plus we are boosting the attack, like we are adding attack, so you want to compensate for that. So as you can see here, that's without. Yeah, so we're saving about 6 decibels of headroom, which is really nice. And then the last thing is going to be the sidechain compression from the kick, just to make the drums pump, I would say. With a pretty short attack. We can try like this. And maybe parallel processing here as well. Yeah, something like this. You can play around with that. And then the final thing that I want to talk about is going to be a bit of like mix bus and master processing that I decided to put on the master channel just to give the same kind of vibe for the track. So we can do like this. As you can see, I just applied saturation to the whole thing. So without the saturation, without the clipper, sounds like this. So as you can hear, like it brings the low frequencies, it makes it more balanced, like warmer. And then a bit of clipping here as well, just like a tiny bit. And then a limiter on the master channel to give it like a punchy feeling, because the original track is also like really, really punchy. As you can see, like it's super loud, like very loud. But again, like we got the same vibe for the track. Alright, so that was it for this tutorial. I hope that you learned something new for yourself. As always, thank you for watching. If you're interested in coaching, all the links are down below, and I'll see you in the next video.